Hello and welcome to my school channel. My name is Angela, and in this video we're going to continue the government topic by topic video lesson. So in the previous video lesson, which was part 1 of the discussion of civil service, we discussed the civil service as an organization that composes of government employees that are responsible for implementing government policies. So now in part 2 of this video lesson, we are moving on to control of the civil service. So please stay with us, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back to my school channel. Like I said earlier, we are moving on to control of the civil service, so let's dive right into it. So to ensure accountability, efficiency and compliance with rules and regulation, the civil service is subjected to various forms of control. That means we have different organizations within the government that is responsible for controlling the activities of the civil service. This is done to ensure that they are accountable for their actions. So one of these organizations is the Civil Service Commission. The Civil Service Commission is responsible for overseeing the recruitment, promotion, discipline, and retirement of civil servants. So they are an organization that is independent of other government bodies to ensure that the civil servants do not get unduly sacked by government officials who wish to ensure that they continue to do their bidding. So the civil service is an independent organization. They work independently. They do that to ensure that civil servants are recruited and promoted on the basis of merit and not on the basis of political affiliation. It also has the authority to discipline civil servants for misconduct, including issuing warnings, suspension, demotions, and termination. So basically, they control the appointment of civil servants and ensure that they remain in order, they remain in line while they are in the civil service. And that organization responsible for the control of the civil service is the Ministry of Finance. So the Ministry of Finance exercises control over the civil service through budget allocations and financial management. So it controls the allocation of funds to various ministries, departments, and agencies. So at the beginning of a fiscal year, the Ministry of Finance is responsible for ensuring that the adequate resources are sent to these civil service officials so that they can perform their duty of implementing policies. So they also manage the payment of salaries and wages to the civil servants, and they audit the expenditure of government departments to ensure that the public funds are spent properly and for the intended purpose. So they perform the function of controlling, managing the payments of salaries and wages of the civil servants, and auditing their documents. Now let's move on to the next slide. All right, and that method of control of the civil service is through the Parliament or the legislature. The legislative arm of government oversees the implementation of laws, policies, and budget expenditures. This is one of the ways by which the legislature checks on the executive. Remember, the civil service is a part of the executive. So what they do is that they review and approve the budget for civil service activities and can question ministers and civil servants about their performance. So we've talked about this under checks and balances. The legislature is responsible for approving the budget of the executive. Whatever function they're about to perform at the beginning of a fiscal year, they approve the budget that they've written down to ensure that there is no padding, everything is done in line. They also have the authority to question ministers. Ministers are heads of the civil service. So whenever they implement policies that are not in favor of the people, they have the authority to question them as to why they implemented those policies. Parliamentary committees can investigate specific civil service actions, policies, or expenditures. They have the power to call witnesses, to review documents, and make recommendations. So whenever they are not doing things the proper way, they have the right to investigate the issue and even call up witnesses, those people who are witnesses to the actions that they've perpetrated, to ensure that they are brought to book. Then there is also executive control. The executive, comprising the president and governors, exercises direct control over the civil service by giving policy direction. Remember, the chief executive officer is the president of the country. So what they do is that they are the ones who create those policies that the civil servants implement, and they have to implement those policies in line with the directive of the chief executive officer or the president. Then they set the overall policy agenda that civil servants are required to implement. High-ranking civil servants, e.g. the permanent secretaries, are often appointed by the executive. It is the president that is responsible for appointing permanent secretaries. The executive also monitors the performance of civil servants to ensure they are working towards achieving the administration's goals. Now let's move on to the next slide. And that method of control of the civil service is through their hierarchical structure and control. So remember, we talked about how the civil service has a hierarchy of authority. So this hierarchy helps to ensure that there is accountability within the civil service. The hierarchical structure of the civil service itself is a major control mechanism. Civil servants report to superior officers within the hierarchy. Each civil servant is accountable to a superior officer who is responsible for supervising and evaluating their work. Tasks are delegated from higher officers to lower ones, and the work is regularly monitored to ensure compliance with rules and objectives. Now, another method of control is through legal or judicial control. The judiciary exercises control over the civil service by interpreting the laws governing public service. This is another method of checks and balances, the judiciary checking on the executive. Courts can review the legality of civil service actions, ensuring that they comply with the law. This includes reviewing decisions regarding appointments, dismissals, and promotion. This is what is called judicial review. They review the actions of the executive to ensure that their actions are constitutional. Civil servants or members of the public can also approach the court to seek redress for any perceived injustices or illegal acts by civil service authorities. So the citizens can go to the court to seek redress whenever there is any injustice done by civil servants. Now let's move on to the next slide. Okay, and that method of control of the civil service is through the Ombudsman or the Public Complaints Commission. We are going to discuss more of this later on. The Public Complaints Commission, also known as the Ombudsman, serves as an independent body responsible for investigating complaints made by citizens against public institutions, including the civil service. So any institution that serves the public are under the purview of the Ombudsman, the Public Complaints Commission. So whenever a citizen feels that his rights have been violated by any public servant, which includes the civil servants, they go to the Public Complaints Commission to complain about their actions so that they can seek redress from them. The Ombudsman investigates complaints about administrative malpractice or unfair treatment by civil servants. This provides a check on the actions of civil servants by holding them accountable to the public. After investigation, the Ombudsman can recommend corrective action, including compensation or disciplinary measures against erring civil servants. The Ombudsman ensures that civil servants respect the rights of citizens by offering a mechanism for addressing grievances without going through the courts. So it doesn't have to be escalated towards the courts. You can just go to complain to the Public Complaints Commission, who can actually help them to seek redress before the issue escalates. Now let's move on to the next slide. All right, we are going to discuss the concept of bureaucracy. Bureaucracy refers to a structured system of administration designed to manage large organizations, including government institutions, by following set rules, regulation, and hierarchical procedures. We've discussed bureaucracy as a form of government. Bureaucracy is a form of government. It is a form of government that is practiced by civil servants. The hierarchical structure is one of the features of a bureaucratic system. Also, the fact that they pay attention to the rules, regulation, and procedures of service also makes them a bureaucratic organization. The Nigerian civil service is bureaucratic in nature. It is meant to ensure that government functions and policies are carried out in an organized, efficient, and consistent manner. So let's move on to the next slide. Okay, so these are the key features of the Nigerian civil service. These are what makes it a bureaucratic system. Bureaucracies are organized into a clear hierarchy of authority, with each level reporting to the one above it. This is what happens in the Nigerian civil service. Each position in a bureaucracy has a clearly defined role, which allows workers to specialize in specific tasks. We also see that in the Nigerian civil service, each civil servant is specialized in a particular task in each sector of the economy. So decisions and actions are made based on formal rules and regulations to ensure consistency. They have respect for rules, regulations, and procedures. They ensure that they perform their duties according to the rules of service. Interactions within a bureaucracy are meant to be formal and based on roles rather than personal relationships. They are very objective in nature. Appointments and promotions in a bureaucracy are typically based on qualification and performance rather than political affiliations. Now let's move on to the next slide. All right, we're going to discuss the causes of bureaucracy. Why does the Nigerian civil service choose to adopt this system of government? So one of the reasons is as a result of the expansion of government functions. As governments take on more responsibilities such as education, healthcare, and infrastructure developments, the need for more specialized departments and officials increases. leading to more bureaucratic structures. So each of these sectors of the economy, you need to implement policies that is tailored to each of these sectors, and you need a bureaucratic structure to do that. You need to be able to employ people who are specialized in each of these sectors to ensure that the policies implemented will favor the citizens according to their goals. Then we also have legal and regulatory framework. The need to ensure compliance with laws and regulation contributes to the development of bureaucracy, as governments introduce more procedures to manage complex legal requirements. So the governments are accountable to the people, and when they do not perform their job properly, they have to lay the blame on someone. And with the existence of these rules and regulation, they know where to lay the blame at, so that whenever there is a problem, they can immediately remove a particular person from office and put a more qualified person. So adherence to rules and regulation is very important in the Nigerian civil service to ensure accountability and transparency. Then there is also the desire for control and accountability. Bureaucracies grow as governments seek to establish tighter control over public resources and activities. Civil servants have the answer to the public and to their supervisors for every action they take, and they need to have proper reports and documentation. This is the reason why the Nigerian civil service always documents every action they take, to ensure that whenever there is a problem, they will know where to lay the blame on. This helps to ensure accountability and transparency. Also, the need for specialization. Bureaucracy provides the necessary structuring in hierarchical order of functions and personnel. It helps every worker to know where he or she fits in and whom he or she is responsible to. With this arrangement, rigidity and inflexibility set in. So this is one of the consequences of bureaucracy, but it is still a necessary action to take in order to ensure that everybody is able to perform their functions appropriately. Now let's move on to the next slide. All right, so we're going to discuss the arguments in favor of bureaucracy. Why do people feel the need to employ this system in the Nigerian civil service? One of the arguments in favor of bureaucracy is efficiency in large organizations. Bureaucracy helps manage large organizations like the civil service by creating clear structures and processes that guide operations. It ensures that tasks are completed in an organized and predictable manner. So in order to allow efficiency within a large, complex organization, you need bureaucracy. You need a hierarchical structure where the lower ranking officials report to the higher ranking ones, and the higher ranking ones can instruct the lower ranking ones to implement certain policies, certain guidelines that they have to follow. So it also helps to ensure accountability within that system. Also, we need this bureaucratic system for continuity. So bureaucracy provides stability and continuity in government administration. Regardless of changes in political leadership, civil servants are expected to continue implementing policies and providing services based on the established rules and procedure. So we understand that every 4 years we have a change in government, but we need a system that continues to implement policies regardless of that change. So this bureaucratic system helps that to take place. Also, there is a need for accountability. A well-organized bureaucracy is transparent and accountable. The hierarchical structure allows for clear lines of responsibility and ensures that individuals can be held accountable for their actions. Also, the idea of impartiality is also the reason why bureaucracy is important. By enforcing rule-based decision-making, bureaucracy helps remove bias and favoritism. Decisions are made according to established rules rather than personal preferences. So there is the existence of objectivity in the Nigerian civil service as a result of this system. Now let's move on to the next slide where we'll discuss the arguments against bureaucracy. One of the arguments against bureaucracy is red tapeism. So bureaucratic procedures can become overly complicated and can lead to delays in decision-making and the implementation of policies. The excessive paperwork and procedural requirements, which is referred to as red tape, can slow down the response of government agencies. So when you hear the word red tape, we're talking about the excessive paperwork that is involved in the administration of a particular organization. So the Nigerian civil service is known for its red tapeism. The fact that before anything can be done, you have to fill out different paperwork that takes a long time for it to be processed before anything can be done. So it is one of the arguments against bureaucracy. There is also the lack of flexibility. Bureaucracies tend to follow strict rules and regulation even when they may no longer be relevant or effective. So this inflexibility prevents the civil service from adapting quickly to new challenges or changing situations. So the fact that you have a rigid structure of rules and procedures to follow prevents innovation from occurring within the Nigerian civil service. That's the reason why we've not been able to adapt to the new technologies that we have in our present day. The Nigerian civil service continues to use old methods that have not evolved with changing times. Then we also have impersonality. Bureaucracies often promote an impersonal approach to service delivery, where civil servants are more concerned with following procedures than addressing the needs and concerns of individuals. This can lead to the lack of empathy and responsiveness to the public. So the fact that they are objective in their approach to doing things makes them impersonal in their nature. So they do not pay attention to personal needs of the citizens, and this can be a problem. This is one of the arguments against bureaucracy. We also have corruption and nepotism. In some cases, the complex and opaque nature of bureaucratic system can provide opportunities for corruption. So civil servants may exploit loopholes in procedures or use their position to gain personal benefits. So there is the problem of corruption. In a system such as this, corruption always sets in. It's a problem, it's one of the arguments against bureaucracy. Now let's move on to the next slide. All right, we are going to discuss the Civil Service Commission. The Civil Service Commission is a statutory body responsible for overseeing the employment, discipline, and general management of civil service within the public sector. So it is that independent body that we've been talking about that is responsible for appointing, promoting, recruiting civil servants to ensure that this process of recruiting the civil servants is not managed by those in power. Now let's move on to the next slide. All right, in most countries, including Nigeria, the Civil Service Commission operates as an independent body with a mandate to ensure that the civil service functions effectively and professionally. It aims to promote efficiency, integrity, and fairness in the recruitment, promotion, and discipline of civil servants. Now let's move on to the next slide. All right, so we're going to discuss the functions of the Civil Service Commission. One of their functions is the recruitment of civil servants. So one of the primary functions of the Civil Service Commission is the recruitment of civil servants into the public sector. It ensures that the hiring process is fair, transparent, and based on merit. In doing so, the Commission conducts examinations, interviews, and background checks to ensure only qualified candidates are selected for various positions. Now let's move on to the next function. Okay, we also have promotion of civil servants. They also handle the promotion of civil servants based on their performance, their experience, and qualifications. It evaluates the career progression of civil servants and ensures that promotions are merit-based. So it is not the political leaders that are responsible for promoting these civil servants. They ensure that it is the responsibility of this independent body. Now let's move on to another function. All right, the civil service is also responsible for discipline and control. They enforce discipline within the civil service. It investigates cases of misconduct, corruption, and inefficiency among civil servants and ensures that appropriate sanctions are applied. The Commission may issue warnings, suspension, or even dismissals depending on the severity of the offense. So whenever there is any misconduct within the civil service, it is the duty of the Civil Service Commission to administer punishments for the crime. Now let's move on to the next slide. They are also responsible for training and development to improve the efficiency and professionalism of civil servants. The Commission is involved in organizing training programs and professional development initiatives. So these programs help civil servants acquire new skills, improve their performance, and stay updated on changes in policies or laws. They train the civil servants. Now let's move on to another function. They are also responsible for retirement and pension administration. The Commission retires civil servants who have reached the statutory age for retirement. It also oversees pension matters for retired civil servants. It ensures that pensions and retirement benefits are administered properly and in a timely manner in accordance with government policies and regulation. So they help to ensure that those people that have retired out of the civil service continue to receive their pension after retirement. Now let's move on to the next one. All right, they also help to ensure good condition of service. The Commission is responsible for establishing and maintaining the terms and conditions of service for civil servants. They set the payment, allowance, and remuneration structure for each rank in the civil service. They have a payment structure. So as you move higher up the rank, your payment increases. So it is the Civil Service Commission that is responsible for setting the standard rates for the payments of civil servants. So we've come to the end of this segment of the video lesson. I believe it was educative and enlightening. If you would like to continue on this journey with us, please go down to the link in the description below. This takes you to my school website where you can subscribe for the governing topic by topic video lesson. There you can continue with us. We're moving on to the differences between civil service and public service. So public service is a different term. We're going to discuss the public service and we're going to discuss the Nigerian police force as part of the public service. So I hope to see you there. I believe you're enjoying this content. If yes, please do not forget to hit the like button, click on the subscribe button, and lastly tap on the notification bell to get informed as soon as we release the next videos.